Welcome to Inside Quest. To paraphrase Morpheus, you're here because you know something. What you know you can't explain, but you feel it. And like me, you felt it your entire life. You could do more, you could be more, but new skills are needed to get you there. And that, my friends, is what this show is all about. We all have something unique that we're trying to accomplish, but like Neo, we all need to learn our version of Kung Fu. And that's how we pick our guests. Each and every person we bring on this show, we believe will help you acquire your needed skills. Now, why do I believe that today's guest will help you? If I had to sum it up, hard work and humility. Achievement drips from this man's pores like most people drip sweat on a hot summer's day. He is ridiculous. He's a Super Bowl champion who graduated from The Ohio State University. He's living proof that success comes to those who train their mind as voraciously as they train their body. A unanimous pick for first team All-American during college, he went on to become a first-round draft pick for the Green Bay Packers. What's up, Cheeseheads? Yeah! Getting picked 5th overall. He played for 10 years in the NFL when the average career is 3.3 years. He ranks #1 in Packers franchise history with 1,025 tackles, and he was chosen by his teammates multiple times as their playoff captain. Now, while his hard work and stellar performance may have helped the Packers win a Super Bowl, what really makes him special, at least to me, is his quest for self-improvement beyond the football field. He's the creator and host of the popular Hawkcast show, and he's made a second career out of learning. He's interviewed some seriously incredible minds, ranging from sports luminaries to business luminaries, and he does it all with blinding optimism and humility. He breaks every stereotype of the meathead football player. He's vulnerable, he's real, he's raw, and yet still tough as all hell. He's got to tell you the story about his sideways finger. That's freaky and a little crazy, but amazing, which he played through the whole game with, by the way. Please help me in welcoming the man with a BA in criminology, a Super Bowl ring, his own charity called Hawks Locks for Kids, and his own massively successful podcast, the one, the only, AJ Hawk. It is very good to have you on the show.
It's great to be here, man. That intro, I'm a fan of your podcast, or of this show. You can't even call this a podcast. It's such a production. And I was excited about the intro, so man, you exceeded my expectations.
Wow, well you were a lot of fun to dig into and write that intro for. And while I was writing that intro, I came across something which really blew me away, and I actually hadn't seen it. It's the poem at the end of Act of Valor, the movie, which you read to your daughter. At one point you said you read to her every night. I'm guessing you work some.
We try to. It gets. She's made me weave a few other ones into it now as well. But yes.
Yeah. If you don't mind, we had it printed out. Would you read it? I think
I would love to, man.
Tells people a lot about you.
Yes. Well, this is like the code you could live by. So, okay. so live your life that the fear of death can never enter your heart. Trouble no one about their religion. Respect others in their view and demand that they respect yours. Love your life. Perfect your life. Beautify all things in your life. Seek to make your life long and its purpose in the service of your people. Prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the great divide. That's the line we have painted on my son's ceiling.
That's incredible.
So he can't read it yet, so it'll probably scare him. Always give a word or a sign of salute when meeting or passing a friend, even a stranger, when in a lonely place. Show respect to all people and grovel to none. When you arise in the morning, give thanks for the food and for the joy of living. If you see no reason for giving thanks, the fault lies only in yourself. Abuse no one and no thing, for abuse turns the wise ones to fools and robs the spirit of its vision. When it comes your time to die, be not like those whose hearts are filled with the fear of death, so that when their time comes, they weep and pray for a little more time to live their lives over again in a different way. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home.
I have the chills, man, from top to bottom. Yeah, right?
Crazy.
So first, thank you for introducing that to me. You've heard me talk about this before. One of the things that when we're looking at guests, I'm really looking for people that the more I dig into them, the more I learn about life and the more I'm learning my own version of Kung Fu. And we're super crazy about who we bring on the show. And it's like you, a very wide variety of people. But it is out of the rewards of researching them that the show continues to go, and that we're willing to put the time and effort into it. And when I came across this, and I'm picturing this massive football player with this incredibly delicate little daughter, reading her a bedtime story, and the beauty of that poem, like you said, it was a code to live by. And when I heard you talk about it, you didn't go into like why you were reading it or anything, just hey, there's this poem that I read to my daughter, and what you were moved by was that she memorized it and now was reading it back to you, and I thought that was really cool. So I look it up, and I'm reading it, and when it gets to the point, respect all others but grovel to none, I was like, stopped in my tracks. That's incredibly, incredibly powerful. What made you pick that for your daughter? And do you think it's surprising to some people that you read something about a death song to?
Oh yeah, especially with prepare a noble death song for the day when you go over the Great Divide. So some people probably think you shouldn't read it to your 3-year-old. She's 5 now.
So it's okay.
So she can handle it. And even like, I thought that for a second, but then I'm like, I don't care, man. I loved it. And I just feel like it covers all the bases. If someone wants to tell you, how should I raise my kids? What do I stand by? I'm like, hey, read this. This guy's a lot smarter than me. Like I could never dream of writing something that beautiful, but I feel like it hits all the bases of, I don't know, it's weird. Like trouble no one about their religion. Let them do what they do. You do what you do, and don't hate on people. I don't know. It's like a weird thing that just hit me, and it still does to this day, obviously.
Yeah, it's super powerful. What are those few key things that you want your kids to learn?
So I just make sure I tell them every day. I have 3 kids now, a 5-year-old, 3-year-old, and 5 months. And I have a girl and then 2 boys. And the only thing I know to tell them, I was like, I'm just going to let you guys know before I left town to come here. I tell them that, I'll protect you forever and ever, I tell them. And then I try, sometimes I'm like, I'll do anything for you. It's like, and then my daughter's getting old enough now to say, Dad, would you knock someone out for me? I'm like, yep. And they tell it, because that's how it's a weird thing with football. She'd always say when she was young, she's like, Dad, and she does this, Dad, you knock people out. She used to say when she was really young. And she's like, and then, so now it goes into everything, how I tell them, how I protect them. Because especially with the daughter, I feel like we have such responsibility. And it's my oldest, my firstborn. And so with her, it all started with that. Like, how do I set her up to be a secure woman and grow into, like, I think we all know a lot of times when girls have issues when they're older, they have dad issues. And so I feel that. I feel like that responsibility. And so I've always put that on there, like, hey, no matter what you do, I will always love you. There's nothing you could ever do that would make me not love you. So you can tell me everything. I'm an open book. I'll listen to you. I was like, I have to discipline you a lot of times because I love you, and try to explain that to kids. They don't get it. They don't want to hear it. But I just want my kids to know that I'm here no matter what, and I'll do anything for them. I'll die for them. I'll kill for them, whatever. You can't describe it, but it's the weirdest, craziest, and the best thing ever. I want to do things for them. Even like my podcast I do, I'm like, man, this is cool. When I'm dead and I'm old and they want to see what dad's like, they could tune this in. They could watch Inside Quest and they could hear me speak. I wish I had videos of my dad when he was 32 years old speaking about how he feels about us.
Yeah, you're right. That would be really incredible. And the fun of doing a podcast, at least for me, is watching myself evolve, right?
Oh,
so
God.
You're not, the interview that I did at the beginning, even just from a pure logistical standpoint of understanding what questions to ask and getting better at being vulnerable and sort of letting go of any posturing. And in the beginning, I was so aware of the people sitting in the audience. And I've become, no disrespect, less and less aware, right, that they're there. And you really want to find that connection and dig something out of people. And I'm doing it really from, to me, selfish isn't a bad word, right? I think that we're all here to how far can you push this, right?
Yep.
Take the NFL. You don't go in the NFL just to be like, I stepped on the field one day, yeah. Right? You go to fall in love. You go to play it to its maximum. And I think that your career has really made a point of that. What is football for you?
I mean, I started playing when I was in the 2nd grade. I'm 32 now. And it's not like people will tell you football is who you are, or if you let football define you who you are, then that's when people really, really struggle post-football life because they don't have an identity. I never felt like that. I grew up playing all sports, football, baseball, and basketball. And I never had a vision. I never had a plan. I was the youngest of 3 boys. I wanted to be like them. I wanted to play on my high school team because those guys were the absolute pinnacle of success, was playing on varsity football. and I found a way to play on the varsity team my freshman year, which was like a big deal. But my brother's 2 years older than me, the quarterback, he like paved the way. He was like the first guy ever to do it at my high school. He started at quarterback as a freshman, and he kind of paved the way for me, and it wasn't even like a question. I'm like, well, yeah, I'm gonna go do what Ryan did. And we played 2 years together, and high school was awesome. And then I have an older brother that came before them that played varsity, and like these guys are my idols. So over the years, it's changed on how I view football, I guess. But I think I've even gotten more passionate about it as I've gotten older. I don't want to ever be that guy that gets bitter, because it's true. In the NFL, it's a business where things can happen, and I never took anything personal when I get cut, released from a team. Like I've always had great things to say about the coaches and the GM and whatever, but on the field, man, it's...
Take me back. You're in what, 8th grade? And you decide, I want to play varsity as a freshman. It's incredibly hard to do. Your brother's the first. Very few people ever do that. And you've always downplayed what you had to do to do that. How on earth, as an 8th grader, do you muster the will to get good enough to warrant that?
Wow. Like, I've just been weirdly curious my whole life and always thought about things differently than I feel like some of my friends. Not better, not worse, but it's always hard for me to put it on paper or even explain it. I try to like explain stuff to my wife, and you know, you're married. Try to explain it, and my wife's like, all right, get to the point. What do you mean? What are you talking about? Like, I'm spilling my soul here. Like, I'm trying to tell you. And she's like, all right, and like, she's breastfeeding and taking the 2 other kids are pulling on our legs. I'm like, I don't know how, and so like that happens a lot. But I would say like that 8th grade year, I think back, my brother was in high school already, and my 8th grade season ended, and the varsity team had 1 week of practice left in 1 week in the season, and their coach asked me to come practice with them, which is probably illegal now. I can't imagine they would let kids do this. And my high school program in Ohio was like just revered as crazy work ethic. Our workouts all summer, June, July, started at 4:30 in the morning. And you just kill yourself for 5-6 hours a morning, and then you'd go into training camp later on where you have 3 practices a day and whatever. But that 8th grade year, they asked me to practice with the varsity team for 1 week. And like, I was scared to death because I'm an 8th grader and these guys are all grown men to me, and they asked me to practice. So I remember I was like, yeah, of course, I'm not gonna say no. And I never voiced it, but I would just sit there all day in school just super like scared, like nervous, scared, anxiety, because I'm gonna have to go practice and kill each other. Like, we wear full pads every day and just run into each other for 3 hours straight. And I was this little kid, and I went and practiced that whole week with those guys, and my brother was the quarterback. So guys were messing with me and even harder on me because they don't want some young punk coming in there and showing them up. When that week ended, it was like I felt like you feel like you could do anything. And so, bam, I just tagged along with my brother for the whole summer and went to workouts and never once went to the freshman team workouts. It was just assumed that I was going to go try to play on the varsity team, and so I ended up doing it.
I know you're not big for self-narrative, but so as you're sitting there 6 hours, 5 hours, 4 hours, how do you keep yourself going? Because one of the things that you talk about really powerfully through your entire career is how much you love the game.
How do I keep myself going, as in like motivated to play?
Yeah, like how did you get yourself to show up for that practice, and then not only show up but excel and push yourself?
I mean, it wasn't an option. It's not an option not to. So it never crossed my mind that I wasn't going to do it. It was just...
Is that because of the code you live by?
I guess.
Because it is an option, right? It's like the most obvious option.
I guess it's just not an obvious. It's just not an option, and that's how it was. That didn't come from an overbearing dad that told me what to do and made me go run sprints in my backyard. He never once ever told me to do that, and I say all the time, it's the biggest compliment I could give him. I think everyone assumed, because we had 3 boys in my family, and all of us were pretty successful at football. In all sports, and they're like, were your parents really hard on you? Was your dad like a drill sergeant? I was like, yeah. Never once did my dad ever make us do anything. But I would wake him up at, when I was playing travel baseball, we found this place that was a batting cage that was open 24 hours a day. And so I would wake my dad up like at 2 in the morning, and I'd be like, yeah, I'd tap him next time. I'm like, hey, I want to go hit. He'd just roll up and be like, all right. And I would go hit in the batting cage for an hour and a half at 1 in the morning. And I never thought of it at the time, or I'd wake him up, I'd want to shoot free throws, I'd just want to practice out in the driveway. And so I'd wake him up and he would just roll out of bed, he'd be like in pajamas out there, and he would just stand there and rebound for me and pass it back to me. And so I never thought of that until I had my own kids. I was like, oh my God, like, you gotta be kidding me. What happened? Like, that's a big deal. And he still never missed a game, never missed anything of any of us, all of us boys. So I see that and I'm like, he never once pushed me, but he was always there. No matter what, he never said no. Like, he bought catcher's equipment, he bought a chest protector and a mask, and we would pitch to him in the backyard. And he just showed up and he's like, oh, here, this will help me a lot, because he was getting sick, getting hit in the chin with balls. I'm bouncing balls to him. And so I look back at that now and I'm like, oh my God, man, like, the sacrifice was unbelievable. And in his mind, he's like, well, I'm your dad, that's what I do. And so I try to carry that on with my kids now.
That's so interesting. So what is it that you love then so much about, because you really have to push yourself to make varsity as a freshman, to play at The Ohio State University, to go on into the NFL. Like, you don't sort of stumble your way into that. Especially now, because you've said you're not a genetically gifted freak. You've met those, you've played against guys like that. That's not you. You've had to work hard. So at some point, it's no longer about chasing your brothers. It's got to be about something else.
It does. I don't know what it is. I think like being naive to the situation I've been in has been good for me. When I played in college, I was too naive maybe to even think about how big of a stage you were on. Like, I was just out there with my buddies and we were just being jackasses and joking around and trying to hit people. And that's still how I live on the field. So it's like, if you take a step and you look back, it looks so serious from the outside. I'm like, no, it's not, man. Actually, like, we're messing around, we're joking with each other, and sometimes your buddy's on the other team and you're trying to give him a cheap shot after the play and he gets mad at you and all that. Like, it's weird. I don't know. When you're in it, it's never as crazy as it seems from the outside.
And seeing your interviews and listening to your own podcast, it seems pretty clear. I don't know if it's unique. I haven't interviewed enough professional athletes, but it certainly is interesting that you're having a lot of fun. So you've said, I don't give in to the roller coaster of emotions that is the NFL. And if you listen to the praise, you have to listen to the criticism. But how do you deal with a messed up play?
Oh, gosh. I think as I've gotten older, unfortunately, you do kind of think about things more and you think about repercussions. So I've never been a head case about worrying about, they say you got to have a short memory. Like, so it happens, receiver drops passes, you miss a tackle, you give up a touchdown, whatever. And it's terrible too, because it sucks. Everybody saw it, it's on camera. They're gonna replay it for years sometimes. So you gotta figure out a way to where your brain it doesn't matter. It can all be forgotten about if the next play you step up and you do something good. It's the same thing if one play you make a big play, you get an interception or whatever. You also have to let that go as well. You can't just coast the rest of the game. Right. Sometimes there is like a subconscious thing. If you have a big play early in a game or something, you'll see sometimes guys, they just keep coming, because I think some guys will naturally relax. If you make a play early, and I think you'll hear quarterbacks talk about they want to complete a few good balls early, because then they can calm down and they feel like they're in the rhythm of the game. Because I mean, you can imagine anybody could relate. If you're a quarterback and you're starting off the game, in the first 2 series, you go 3 and out, and you don't complete a ball yet, you're going to be pressing hard to figure out, like, all right, let's just get this thing back on track.
Right.
So if you can do it early, man, smooth sailing usually.
Yeah, that's, God, I can't imagine with the glare of the TV lights and thousands.
You can't, worry about it, I think. Hopefully I don't know. That's the good thing about being naive, and I always say, about being dumb enough to not ever realize how big of a deal it is, what you're doing.
Right.
I got to play in the Super Bowl, and I had no idea. The only thing I was like, man, this sucks. We're at the stadium 5 hours early. Normally you go to the game 2 hours early, but the Super Bowl is crazy. So we were in the locker room for 5 hours before. I drank 15 cups of black coffee in the locker room, talking to my buddies. I'm like, can we please just start this game? Wow. So I didn't think oh God, the history of the Packers and our whole legacy is going to be defined by this game today. If you do, you might have a bit of anxiety for that game.
Yeah. How do you plan to teach your kids to find the love of what they do instead of just looking at the results, but balance it with, you've achieved massively. It's crazy. Your career is astonishing.
I mean, kids don't care about what you do, which is a good thing. Maybe when they get older, they can look back at what their dad's done.
But they're going to care about what they do, and that's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
How do you get them to find the love that you have, but yet still strive for real accomplishment?
I think just live it and see it through. Everything that I've ever done has been watching other people chase what they're passionate about. Like, I think anyone can respect someone that is like owns who they are, whatever that may be. I tell people, if you're a dick, be a dick. Don't fake like you're a cool, egoless dude. Like, just be you. I may not like you, but I'll respect the fact that you're a dick and that you live it. And if you're cool, so like I can respect things like that. And I've had coaches that I hate with a passion, but I respect them for who they are, like how they are. And so my kids, I tell them all the time, I have all these weird sayings and I have a good night routine. I just read that. This good night routine I came up with my daughter is ridiculous. I have Bruce Lee quotes, we bow to each other. I do this thing where I bow to her and we bow like this with our arms, and then I tell her, I say, be water, my friend, and then she says, be water, my friend, and she says, Bruce Lee, and she runs and gives me hugs. And then so like that's like, it's so odd.
All right, what does it mean to be like water to you?
Oh, I think it means just be authentic and be you. I think Bruce Lee is the epitome of that. He was way like ahead of the times, and that whole quote there, when you watch his interview when he did the whole thing, the be water, my friend, pour water into a cup, becomes a cup. My daughter memorized that whole thing because I used to read that as well.
Wow.
But I think it's just being real, being authentic. I did a Colin Cowherd's radio show yesterday, and we somehow got on the subject of like fake tough guys. He asked me like, who's tough? How do you guys like, what's the pecking order in a locker room? He's like, is it always the biggest? I'm like, no, the biggest guy is not like always the toughest. And I said, so I take pride in being able to see through when people are not authentic. And I was like, especially professional athletes, like they can sniff that out quickly. So whatever you are, be you, and I think people will respect it. Don't try to pander to what group you're in, because they're gonna see through that as well. Just be you, man.
So, God, there's 2 branches you've just given me. Let's go. We're going to have to go down both. So that I don't forget, the one that we're going to abandon right now is the Will You Die in a Treadmill, which is amazing, yes, and you've talked very eloquently about that. And then the other is your authentic self. I love how much, not only in your podcast, just in your life, that you don't posture, right? So from my perspective, you're a big, tough guy, right? You play in the NFL, you play the game.
Big. I'm not big. I'm sure you saw me and you're like, you're not nearly as big as I thought.
No, motherfucker, I did not think that.
I was like, I'm not offended at all, bro. What do you mean? You're supposed to be like, look at the NFL now. These linebackers are 220 pounds. I came out at 250. Wow. I'm like 238 now. You got to be smaller as you get older.
I did not think that.
You look great, by the way.
That's very kind. I don't think I would do very well in an NFL game.
I knew you were muscular when I talked to you on my podcast, and you're big. It's good, man. You're doing good.
That's truly, truly generous. But you're no schlub. I've seen your workouts. Obviously, the way that you play is crazy. You played a game with your finger at a 90-degree angle. Didn't notice till the end of the game, which I still find just insane. But dude, you're super vulnerable, and you have a 4-pound Chihuahua named Todd, if I'm not mistaken. That's amazing that you list among your best friends, which is super cool. But what I dig the most is you were first with the Packers. You took a pay cut, which they gave you different words that you could have used and all that, and you said that's just fancy.
Yeah, let's restructure. But I don't care, man. It's a pay cut. Cool. I'm still on the Packers. I was like, I'm happy to be here. So yeah.
God, that's so incredible. So you've been in the NFL for like 6 or 7 years before that shakes down. You had every right to have an ego, but you don't. How have you kept a level head?
I think like you have people in your life that check you if you get out of line, if you think you're cool or whatever. Like my oldest brother, he's an electrician back in Ohio, and he scares me to death. Like just a big old, strong dude with big old bear claws for hands, but he's awesome because he's so calm and collected all the time, and he's like the biggest fan ever of my podcast, and I didn't know he even knew what a podcast was. And he'll like text me and be like, hey, saw the Tom episode, great stuff. And that's like him super excited.
Wow.
So like that's how he is. And my brothers at the same time, I think in my head still, like if I say something stupid or like that would come across as like being pretentious or like a lot of athletes do speak, I'd have a text instantly. They'd be like, you're a huge douche. Like we're gonna kick you out of the family.
I don't think you ever have to worry about that coming. And the reason I don't think you have to worry about that coming, and guys, I encourage you all, If nothing else, watch the breaking news podcast that you did with your brother Ryan when you were officially let go from the Packers, and it was class. It was class from top to bottom. And when I think about, I was talking to the team here at Quest, and I said, you don't know anybody until you see how they handle adversity, right? So don't be proud of yourself in the times when it's easy. It's easy by definition. We're all going to get by just fine on that. It's the times when it's hard. You're going to learn something about somebody. And taking a pay cut when it's covered in the national news, that's tough, man. Like, what story do you tell yourself about how they're a bunch of dumbasses and they don't see my real talent in order to self-soothe yourself? And people ask me all the time, like, what's a foundational principle to success? And to me, the answer, there is but one. The people who can emotionally recenter themselves when they take a hard knock, mess up a play, take a pay cut, covered publicly for messing up. For the people that can recenter themselves quickly and find their true north and be able to look very nakedly at their deficiencies and still move forward in trying to grow and get better, those people will do well, because there's nothing that you can do that will break them, because they're just looking for, I want to improve. And you have lived that so profoundly and so openly. Like, there's something in you which is incredibly beautiful and super inspiring and is a gift, certainly to me, and I think to many. So thank you for that. Walk us through what your experience was like when they let you go, because the way you handled it publicly was awe-inspiring.
Well, I spent 9 years in Green Bay. I had 1 year left on my contract, and NFL contracts are weird. Like, it's not a contract; they can cut you at any time. That's just how it works, and you got to know that going in. Don't be an idiot. Like, don't think that, hey, I signed a 5-year deal, I'm going to be here 5 years.
Right.
No, odds are you're not going to be there 5 years. So I always knew that, and I kind of felt it in the air. I kind of felt the atmosphere change. Like, just, I didn't even take it personal. I was like, it's my time to go, and I was like, I love it here. I have great friends there. I still love them all, but I didn't hold a grudge against them. And so, like, I got the call from, they were first class from the jump. Like, Ted Thompson, the GM, called me, and then, like, Mike McCarthy, the head coach, was so cool and just such a good person that, like, they wouldn't officially let it go to a press release that they cut me until I talked to him on the phone. I would never have been offended if he never even called or texted. And so stuff like that. And so then and it wasn't even from like a media, I wasn't trying to like pump my podcast or anything, but I just wanted to address it. Instead of doing like a couple different call-in radio shows or whatever, I wanted just to talk about it for once in a long-form thing, like why everybody loves podcasts. You can actually get someone's true feelings. Mm. And so I reached out to my brother, who has a great podcast himself, and you were a guest on his as well.
Yes.
And I was like, hey, man, you want to like host this thing? Do you want to kind of just go with me and you ask me questions about like why I was cut and why I wasn't there anymore? And so I just wanted to address it like that, and I knew my brother would be great at coming up with those questions, and he did. And I think it's like an hour almost of just explaining what happened and what went on. And yeah, I still have a lot of people that reach out to me that talked about it and that they actually saw that and watched. A lot of even like my high school coaches, people I couldn't reach out to directly a lot, because you can't get to everybody, could explain it all right there. And it was kind of cool because it made it, I didn't have to have the same conversation with 50 people about, no, I'm completely cool, because I instantly start getting those texts. Oh, I'll never watch another Packers game again. I'm like, no, keep watching it. They're awesome there. Don't feel like you're standing up for me by doing that. So I appreciate your support, but they're great. And so I just wanted to get all that out. And that's kind of just the outlet where I could do it. I just wanted to let people know that I'm not like bitter, not anything towards the Packers, nothing but positive things towards the Packers, because people just assume that I would instantly think, oh, forget the Packers. Like, no,
right,
way,
right.
Man. Never. That was never the case. So that's what made me think about even doing this,
right.
Just to try to point people to a place like, hey, if you really want to know how I feel, I'm 100% positive, and leave there with great feelings towards them and everyone from the front office all the way through that building in Lambeau Field, and everyone around there, and always will have good thoughts towards them. And they've treated me unbelievably.
Your brother did a great job. It was 30 minutes of emotional beauty. It was one of the most interesting things. So obviously I don't think of the world in terms of sports. I think of the world in terms of business. And just seeing somebody be so fucking awesome. Like, okay, so I'm gonna really try to capture this. We all get our asses handed to us in life, for sure. It's the only guarantee that I can make, right? I hope your life is amazing, and I hope that there are times when it's easy, but I can't promise that. I can promise you will get your ass handed to you. I can promise that at times life will be unfair and incredibly unjust. The only thing you control in all of that is how you react. Your career is amazing. You contributed to winning a Super Bowl. You have franchise records with the Packers. You delivered for that team. I mean, literal blood, sweat, and tears. Anyone, I mean, you can see from your friends, the way they react is to support the Packers is to betray you, but that isn't how you felt. And this is why I think, dude, whatever you decide to do, you're gonna have success in life because you're not faking. Like, you really seem happy to be alive. Like, that's so fucking cool. And then you go, oh, and I get to be successful? Like, doing what I love? This is almost too much. And that's easy to do when you're winning, but it was there, man, when you were losing. And that's when I was like, I like to tell people the moment that I fell in love with them. That's the moment I fell in love with you. Wow. It was like, dude, it's easy to win a championship, right? It's all going well.
Yeah.
But to say kind and beautiful and empowering things about them and to say, it was a beautiful run and I've loved my time, and that you said then, my message will be consistent forever. I mean, because we're years later now and you're still saying the same thing, and I guess here's the moral of my story. That's not an accident. To me, that is a cultivated mindset. You're not a genetic freak. You didn't just get a mindset that's effective handed to you. You worked your ass off. You realize that just like what you're doing to train your kids, man, that if you tell each other, be water, my friend, and you focus on all these things that you're grateful for and thankful for, that it solidifies something in your mind. And I just want to thank you. God, this is a long-winded way of saying thank you. Thank you for showing me and for so many other people that you can be strong no matter what, that you can be you no matter what, that you can find a path to something amazing no matter what, and that you can even see beauty and enjoyment in failure. It's fucking awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's good.
All right, now tell me, are you willing to die on a treadmill?
So, yeah, of course. It's a classic, like, Will Smith YouTube clip of him talking about how he says he's not afraid to die on a treadmill. Like, if me and one other person get on a treadmill, he will die before he gets off. And he, you know, Will speaks too. I don't know if you've seen that video. Like, I'm like, I'm in. Like, I'm all in. Like, I'll send all my money to Will Smith after I watch that video. Like, whatever.
I think
whatever,
he's doing okay.
Yeah. He can piss on my money. But I'm like, whatever you're coaching, Will, I'm with you.
Do you think that it takes a lot of, like, what is it that makes you or Will Smith or anybody else actually capable of dying on the treadmill? Because here's what I like about that analogy. On a treadmill, you can just step off. That's what makes the analogy so cool. It's a treadmill at any time. There are no stakes other than the stakes that you put in your own mind.
And think about that. That's a thing I saw with football a lot. The first, like, couple days of training camp, guys have so much energy in the locker room. They're running around, like, dancing, going crazy. And I would just sit there and just hang out. I'd be like, all right, bud, give me a call in a couple days. Let me know after your legs are dead and your head hurts and your whole body hurts. Let me know. And like 2 days later, never fail. Guys are sitting like in their locker, like so depressed, like, oh, before practice because it's really hard. Yeah. So I'm like, you got to find a way to not just. It's easy to do things when you feel good. I've always thought that. I'm like the treadmill thing, the analogy. If you want to get on the treadmill, like if I'm going to build it up, okay, me and you're going to get on the treadmill and let's see who dies first. It's going to be easy. Like those first couple minutes, 5 minutes, like, yo, yeah, man, this is killing it. And then you start feeling terrible. Like how do you respond when you start feeling terrible? And I look over and it looks like you're just cruising. Like you're all 175 pounds, I'm 240. I just can't keep up. I don't know how much you weigh. But how do you respond when things are hard and you feel terrible? And that's what I think I take pride in, like when I don't feel like doing it or I don't feel good, how do I respond? I was like, I don't know. I don't think about it. I just go. It's part of the good thing about having those like meathead roots. That's just go, man. Haven't you ever seen the guy that's too dumb to realize he's tired? I wish I had that. I wish I had more of that. Like I play with some guys where, and I mean that with all due respect, but we have guys we have to run a timed mile, and I'm terrible at distance running. I'm horrible. and I would just dread it. I'd be terrible. We had some guys that would run, and it was like Forrest Gump. They'd finish their 4th lap, and they'd just keep going. Like, and they'd be so fast. They'd run it really fast, too, and the coaches would almost like, hey, you're good. And he'd be like, oh, okay. Oh. And I'd look around, and my brother and I would talk about it because we would always be dying in the last, like 2 of the last guys racing to run like an under 8-minute mile barely, just horrible. And I realized, like, this dude doesn't realize he's tired. Like, right. And some guys don't. And so, like, at times, I have that in certain areas where I'm too dumb to realize or to think about the repercussions or how hard this may be. Right. And so sometimes I wish you could kind of find a way to cultivate that. I don't know. Maybe Quest can figure that out.
We'll try to make it.
When you guys are with the cancer dog study.
Yeah.
You guys are breaking new barriers everywhere you go. So that'd be a good one. How do I turn that part of my brain off that realizes that this is hard, I'm tired, this hurts?
You know, it's interesting. So you and I are exact opposite sides of that intellectual coin. So for me, I know I'm tired immediately. I know I'm tired before I start running, right? So that really has been my whole life, which is why I'm always asking people, like, what is that mindset that they cultivate? And as I was doing research on you, you've talked very clearly about, I don't do a lot of internal narrative. And for me, internal narrative is the only thing that's gotten me by, right? It's the story that I tell myself about myself is the reason that I've been able to accomplish the things that I have. And to really take it to the extreme, so there's those guys who are genetically gifted, and you know, you've talked about how you'll have a guy he's shredded and fast and doesn't have to think about it, doesn't go to the gym, anything. So in the universe, there's always going to be some polar opposite to that, and that would be me. So I was chubby growing up. I was slow. I didn't show any signs of promise. I mean, I've told the story very famously. My mother, who at this point, my mother has always been my biggest cheerleader, but when I was leaving high school, she just assumed I would fail at college and come back. And quietly, she didn't say that to me, right? She's like, "Yay, go get him! Oh God, you're gonna be back soon, right?" Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so for me, and the reason that we do Inside Quest, and some of the ethos really is there with what we're doing in cancer and all that stuff, and really just trying to find out what are the answers, like where are the boundaries, and can we, once we find the edges of the limits, can we push those limits back and try to do more? And to me, the central question of life is how many skills can you acquire that have utility, and then put that utility to the test in service of something greater. So for me, I suppose the business could have been anything. It just happened that, you know, the three of us had a Venn diagram overlap of passion right here at Health and Nutrition. And so we decided to make that the battleground. The reason that we're doing it is largely to have a battleground, right? So to create a battleground that exists in service of other people, so that the harder you work in this, the more people that you help. But it's really to find out, like, do the skills that I'm acquiring actually work or not? And if they don't work, I have an immediate answer because I can see I'm not getting the results that I wanted to get, and I can adjust and change course. But I've had to turn the world into a bunch of phrases like "be water, my friend," like that poem, which, you know, be respectful to everyone but grovel to none. I mean, like, those are now things that are cemented in my mind, and I'm just trying to collect those things so that I can build this code with which I live by, and so I don't have to give in to fatigue. But I need an answer to why I don't have to give in to fatigue. I need to understand when I step onto the treadmill, why am I willing to die, right? Because, dude, of all the things I've learned about myself, motherfucker, I'm gonna die on that treadmill last. Like, I will not stop.
But what did you tell yourself when you were a young kid and you said you were overweight, whatever, your mom secretly thought you were gonna fail?
Yeah.
What was the narrative you were telling yourself then?
Amazingly good question. So it went something like this. I am incredibly smart. I'm smarter than most people. And because I'm smarter than most people, like, a lot of amazing things are going to happen in my life. And all I need to do is stand back and collect the gold pieces that are going to fall from the sky. So I put myself in situations that would reinforce that I was the smartest person in the room. And
hang out with dumb people?
Yes.
Really?
So at one point I actually called myself the king of remedial jobs, I would only interview for a job where I knew I'd be smarter and better educated than the person that was interviewing. I longed, it was a success if the person looked at me and was like, why are you here?
You're overqualified.
Then it was like,
you feel good to be overqualified.
I'm in the right place. And so my life was going absolutely nowhere. And I was dirt poor. I was wildly unhappy. And finally, I just said, I'm doing something wrong because I'm not getting any result that I want. Maybe I'm not the smartest person. Maybe that's a lie. And maybe it's not a good lie. So we should probably look to something else. So my mom had every reason to believe that I would fail. The only thing she didn't account for was that I really was ambitious. Incredibly ambitious. And I always wanted to play on a huge stage. In fact, it wasn't that I wanted to play on a huge stage. I wanted what I did to matter. And I was like, if what I'm gonna do is going to matter, being the king of remedial jobs is literally the antithesis of that. So I just started reading, and I thought, surely somebody has gone through what I'm trying to go through, and if I could just learn enough about it, maybe the answers will present themselves. So that became my obsession, and I began learning, and then I met people who also read, and then that became this self-reinforcing cycle, and
wow.
And then the self-narrative begins to change, and I realized, because at the time I didn't even know that I had a self-narrative. I didn't know that it was self-defeating. I didn't know that I was telling myself that I was smart. I didn't know how dangerous that was, especially when you're really not that smart. But then as I began to, like you said, as you mature and you grow, your perspective on the game changes. So my game wasn't the NFL, but I had a game business. And my perspective on the game was really changing, and I was beginning to get more effective. Now you can call that wiser, more educated, whatever you want, but I was getting more effective. I could have an intention, and then I could make that intention play out exactly as I envisioned it. And as I began to learn, I would just grab like these little statements, like from this card. There's so many things in this. Sing your death song and die like a hero going home, right? That now becomes a part of me. And then you hit this moment, and it's like, wait, what I don't want to do is have a moment where I wish I had lived my life differently.
Yeah.
So this is the moment. I'm on the treadmill. This sucks. I'm not having fun. Like the last time, to give you a very specific example, the last time that I really went hard on cardio, I just was hell-bent to get lean. Do you know what book I listened to?
Jocko's book?
No, but amazingly good guess. The only book that might be better for cardio than Jocko's book is Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl.
Okay.
And it's written by a guy who survives Auschwitz. It is perhaps the most emotionally profound and important book that anybody can read for understanding human suffering and finding joy and beauty even in the worst of things. And so I'm sitting here listening to this going, my goal is trite and petty and small and ultimately nothing, but I need to decide if it's valuable enough to me to spend the time. And suddenly it starts like that whole narrative begins to be something different, and I'm deafening the sound of the suffering with the sounds of other things that are more beautiful.
Jeez. That reminds me of like is that an SNL sketch when you look in the mirror? You're beautiful, whatever it is. You're gosh darn it, people like you. Yeah.
Whatever, yeah.
Where do you get that from? Like I never thought of telling myself anything.
Well, here's the great irony, and I'm not kidding. I'm not being hyperbolic, because I actually know you get really uncomfortable when people point at you. And
you had to define hyperbolic first for me.
Perfect. I love that. Hyperbolic is to grandly overstate something.
Okay, good.
Right? Or
did everybody here know exactly what that meant? Let's see.
But only he had the guts to ask.
That's part of my thing. I need to try to ask more questions like that, because I normally I almost went right through it, and inside just because of how you eloquently use words, I even thought in my head, I'm like, I need to know the exact definition of that.
Dude, that is so
I was
awesome.
like, I had like a weird kind of, I had a slight idea.
That is really, really awesome, and I hope everyone has even more respect for you. And it once happened to me on the show. Someone said something I didn't know, so I just asked, because I'm never afraid to look stupid. And after the show, somebody wrote to me and said, you changed my life when you did that, because I realized that this whole time I've been so afraid of looking stupid that I haven't learned as quickly as I could. So thank you for and I was doing it for me, right? I just wanted to know. So anyway, someone out there right now is thinking, whoa, that really impacted me that he would stop and take the time to ask. So that's fucking awesome. Thank you. So I was saying, I know you don't like it when people overstate things and hype you up, but in all seriousness, when I came across that poem, because of you, it changed me. And maybe it changed me in a small way, and I'm okay with that. It's not everything has to be huge. But the words of that poem, I immediately copied it, I wrote it down, I saved it somewhere that I would have easy access to it at all times. And the respect all people but grovel to none, that's really, really become a part of who I am. And I have you to thank. So the way that the self-narrative evolves over time is amazing people introduce you to amazing ideas. And my thing is, the greatest piece of advice I could give to anybody, be a student in all things. Never be too big to learn. So I'm trying to learn from everybody, man. And that's why I bring people on the show. And I once said, humility finds me every day. Because in some way, everyone I meet is my superior. And routinely I meet people who are apparently my superior in every conceivable way. And if you can keep your emotions from becoming a problem, you can learn.
Yeah, man. I don't know. I'm just glad you defined the word for me. Hyperbolic. I'm gonna use it now.
It's yours forever. All right, I want to be respectful of your time. Leave us with one final question, if you would. What is your definition of a life well lived?
Life well lived, man. I think just be authentic, man. If you're, be you, whatever that is, live it. And I've learned that over time, for sure. Growing up like a super shy kid, it wasn't being exactly authentic. Just asking questions. A lot of times I wouldn't ask a question because you don't want to look stupid, or I'm like, scared to speak to people. Just being shy. So I think whatever you are, man, just own it. Just own it, 100%. If it's, no matter what it is, just do it. Don't try to be something you're not. It's so simple, man. And don't complicate things.
My man. AJ, thank you so much for being on the show. That was utterly incredible. Boys and girls, this is somebody that you are going to want to dig into. Researching AJ had a profound impact on me, from the routines that he does with his kids, which are mind-boggling, and I want to start doing with myself. In fact, to my wife, baby, we're going to have to start doing a nightly routine that will involve bowing.
Yes.
It is going to involve all kinds of respect and things like that.
Please do it.
Fantastic. Being authentic is incredible, and I think people say it a lot, and I have such a deep and burning fear that those words are going to become trite to people. So do yourself a favor, watch his podcast, The Hawkcast, because you're going to see what real authenticity looks like. He does not put on airs, but man, he cuts to the heart of things. He is an incredibly well-rounded and interesting individual who says that he hangs out with everybody from his little kids in Chihuahua to having 70-year-old friends, and he likes the diversity of ideas, and he doesn't just want to hang around with people who are just like him. And anybody that's on that kind of quest to really get a broad understanding of the world and to grow and develop, man, that's somebody that you really want to dig into. But the thing that I most want you guys to go and learn about is what he has shown, the humility in success, the intention in defeat, and the beauty emotionally of not letting yourself get caught up in your own hype, of showing respect and honor to people who've been good to you. Things come together, things fall apart. And this man is the same person when they're together as he is when they fall apart. He is the same man when he misses a tackle as he is when he wins a championship. It is utterly breathtaking. And I know that he is going to go on to do utterly astonishing things. Whatever he does, much like he said he wants to give all of his money to Will Smith, I'm going to give all of my money to AJ Hawk. This man is for real. Do yourself a favor and dig in. AJ, where can they find you?
I'm on Twitter. I'm terrible at it, but my name is official AJ Hawk. And my podcast is on iTunes, The Hawkcast. And if you can't find me, then I say all the time, then you don't deserve to hear it, because it's so easy to find everything now.
All right, everybody. Until next week, be legendary, my friends. Take care. AJ, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Incredible.